March Madness is about to be lit. NC State wins a thriller in 2 overtimes over Notre Dame. Of course, Notre Dame, the number one ranked team coming into the game. They were on a 20-game winning streak, beating teams by 28 per game. But NC State winds up beating the number one team in Raleigh for the first time since 1978. So it'll be a short reign at the top for the Irish. Hannah Hidalgo not particularly efficient in this one. She was still feisty on defense. Sonia Citron hit the big three to send it to overtime, but NC State held off Notre Dame in 2 overtimes. Then there was the controversial finish at the end of UCLA and Iowa. The refs mucked that game up a little bit, and it wound up costing the Hawkeyes. But nonetheless, and that was because Lucy Olson was called for a foul at the very end that led to the decisive points for UCLA, though Olson was fouled on a 3 right before that. Nonetheless, though, the way that these games are playing out, the fact that Texas could now be number one, and they lost to Notre Dame, of course. They also lost and beat South Carolina. UCLA was at number one, and Iowa was right there with them. USC beat UCLA, and some of these various outcomes we've seen across the course of this season with UConn now rising. It just shows you that many teams could be able to cut down the nets come March. Here's a look at some of the action that I was referencing. This was the Lucy Olson play. Then we'll get to Notre Dame and NC State, which was just an unbelievable game. But Lucy Olson was fouled on a 3 that put them in position. Kind of a dumb foul by UCLA. I think it was probably justified. But this was the play in question. You can see, looks like she gets tripped by the screener, and that's what leads her to fall into the ball handler. And that leads to the decisive points in the game. And that's the difference in the game right there. And it's always tough when you lose a game because of a call, which is what happened to Iowa really in that one. Here was Lucy Olson on what the refs told her.
Walk me through your vantage point of it.
Yeah, well, my free throws obviously haven't been great this season, so I was proud of myself in that moment. I thought that was like, all right, we hit the free throws, we're going to win this game. I think everyone kind of felt that momentum. And then the foul, I just got caught on the screen accidentally. Like, I got hit on the screen, so it bumped me into her. I couldn't really do anything about that, and then I just fell. And then they called a foul for me falling. So, I don't know. I guess I was not in legal guarding position, is what they said. So, I guess it makes sense. It's just frustrating because you just hit that, and then you send them to the line. Yeah, so it's just a frustrating end of the game, but that's all part of it. So, got to learn from it.
Well, she took that really well. She took that really well, all things considered. Because, yeah, she wasn't in a legal guarding position. And, yes, it was indeed a foul. She fell into her legs. But the falling into her legs was because she was tripped up by the UCLA player. Not really her fault. So a tough loss for Iowa. But sometimes momentum can be fleeting. Because the same thing really happened in the Notre Dame-NC State game where you saw the momentum you would think was the momentum when it felt like NC State was going to win it in regulation. And then Sonia Citron hits this 3 right here to send it to overtime. And then you got to be thinking, okay, Notre Dame's going to win it now in overtime. It goes to double overtime, and NC State pulls away in the double overtime, in large part thanks to Zoe Brooks, who, was excellent in that game, a career high 33 points for her. And I think if you watch some of these highlights, it's not even just about Brooks, who also had 10 boards, but you see that the problem for Notre Dame, if there is a problem, is a lack of size and physicality. Hidalgo, who I love, is undersized, right? And you'll see it on some of these plays. She's small. She plays with a lot of heart, but she's small. But everybody on Notre Dame, relatively speaking, because the strength of that team is 1 through 3, really, they don't offer that much resistance at the rim. There's not an intimidation factor on the perimeter defense when it comes to length, or on the inside when it comes to physicality. Easy shot outside there. And there were just a lot of drives that, there's a contest there, but it's not one that you can't just go up and finish through. And same goes, for a lot of these, with this kick out to the corner. Miles a little late on the closeout, got caught in the, ball watching on the rotation. And then there, just finishes over. And you saw a lot of that in the game. And I think, if Notre Dame's going to win, it's going to be based around guard play. It's certainly not going to be based on the interior. And that is their weakness right now. That was a foul when you saw the replay. But nonetheless, good defense. Good take. I mean, Notre Dame did have losses to Utah and TCU all the way back in November. That's the last time they lost. They obviously have the wins over USC and Connecticut and Texas, but NC State gets the win there. And we've seen so many different various results over the course of this season. Like Texas beat South Carolina, but also lost to South Carolina, I believe. UCLA narrowly beats Iowa today. Iowa beats USC. USC beats UCLA. South Carolina in that little bit of a funk before they were the number one team. They've got some good wins, but UConn smacked them after UConn lost to USC and Notre Dame. Notre Dame beat Texas. Notre Dame beat UConn. Notre Dame beat USC. And then you got a team like NC State beating Notre Dame. And all of that, is to say that parity is certainly in the air right now at this time of year. And there are a bunch of teams that could probably win it all. I mean, because you're in a format where it's one and done. So I'm not saying this is a condemnation of the Irish or Notre Dame. I mean, I still love that squad. And I still think that, I'd put them amongst the favorites, if not the favorite, in the tournament. But the way UConn's coming on, you're going to say they can't win? You're going to say South Carolina can't win? You're going to say UCLA with Lauren Betts can't win? You're going to count USC completely out? And you got these teams like NC State. You've seen what Iowa is capable of doing in a given game, and they represent a bunch of other teams. I'm not specifically saying them. So it's exciting times because those were great games. I think the NC State Notre Dame game was better in the sense of like a pure basketball game decided by the players, but the other one was a tight one too. And a controversial finish like that is good for talking points and discussions. Does it really mean too much in the grand scheme of things? Who won or lost that game? Probably not, but it will if that's the game that sends you home for the season. So got to be excited about where we're headed with the women's college basketball season, how many exciting players there are, how many exciting teams there are, and how up in the air everything is up for grabs.